Welcome to the Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. Today, we are live on the air from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., asking for your financial support and sharing the great work of various ministries, authors, speakers, clergy, and local radio hosts that impact our local Charlotte community. Carolina Catholic Media Network is 100% listener supported, and we need your financial support to continue broadcasting the truth of Jesus Christ. Call 1-800-857-2909. That's 1-800-857-2909 to make your tax-deductible pledge. Operators are standing by right now to take your call, or you can donate online at carolinacatholicmedia.org. Thank you for your loyal listenership. We hope you enjoy this special Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon program.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon here. We are now at our 7 o'clock hour here on this fundraiser, on this opportunity to share the amazing things that are going on in our local community and beyond. We need your support to keep Carolina Catholic Media Network on the air. You just heard the phone number, but I'll give it one more time, 1-800-857-2909. Again, 1-800-857-2909 to make your tax-deductible pledge. And this hour, we have two wonderful people joining us from Silent No More. And so Janet Morana and also Andrea Hines are with us here. And I'm going to turn it over to these ladies to talk with us this morning about what Silent No More is. And so, Janet, would you please give us a little bit of background on what Silent No More is? And thank you so very much for joining us today. And, of course, talk a little bit about your role and as being one of the founders of it.
Well, thank you. Good morning. This is Janet Morana, and I'm the executive director of Priests for Life. I also co-founded the Silent No More Awareness Campaign with my colleague, Georgette Forney. She's the president of Anglicans for Life. We first developed the idea or the concept back in 2002. We were looking ahead to the 30th anniversary at that time of Roe v. Wade, which would have been in January of 2003. At that point, the National Organization for Women and these other groups that were obviously pro-abortion were dominating the media. They were claiming to speak for all women. Georgette, being a woman who herself personally had an abortion, came through healing. I personally had been working with Rachel's Vineyard for many years, knew the damage abortion was doing to women, both physical, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. And we felt, after going through healing, those women who felt called to share their story should have a platform to get out there. So that, the purposes really of the campaign were first to reach others who were hurting and thought they were alone, to realize this is not the unforgivable sin, that the mercy of Christ is here for them, and listen to these voices who at one time felt this shame and regret, but didn't know where to go, and they could reach out and find healing. The voices also speaking out, we thought, would help stop other women from having an abortion when they could hear what could happen to them. And we know many babies have been saved because of their brave voices out there. And then finally, we were hoping, and I think that's being accomplished all the time, is that these voices of truth, of experience, would negate all the political rhetoric out there. And so people who are kind of in the mushy middle would see that abortion doesn't help women, it harms them, and they have deep regret. Now, Andrea came along in the early days of the campaign, and she was brave enough to agree to help organize things down in Charlotte. And we're so grateful for her for stepping out and lending her voice. So, Andrea, I'd like you, because, the women give their testimony. Brothers and sisters, if you want to read and watch a lot of video testimonies, just go to abortiontestimonies.com. We have the largest search engine up there of testimonies. But right now, let's listen to Andrea. You introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about your abortion story, okay?
Okay, thank you. My name is Andrea Hines. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. My testimonies kind of change as depending on the audience and whatnot. Right before the March for Life in Charlotte this last January, it came to me. I entered the Catholic Church on a stretcher, the field hospital for sinners. And I know this is a Catholic radio show, so I wanted to kind of focus on that because it saved my life. I was in college. I got pregnant, my boyfriend. This was in 1977. My parents found out I was pregnant and they forced me to have the abortion. I didn't have the strength or the wherewithal to stand up against them. And it felt good to just want to continue on my life the way it was. So it wasn't, it was me too. Okay. So, I had the abortion and I knew that I killed my baby, but it also killed me. I became, I was buried 6 feet under with shame. My soul died that day. And I went about the motions of life, but I just wasn't living. And I never thought that I could ever regain that. It never occurred to me that I ever could. In 1990, this was in 1997. In 1998, my friend Peg invited me to go on a mission trip to Jamaica with Missionaries of the Poor. And that was a life-changing experience for me. It was the Missionaries of the Poor brothers, they operate all over the world, but in Kingston, Jamaica, they live in the ghetto of Princeton, Jamaica, the ghetto, the poorest of the poor. And I went there for a week with my son and I, Peg and her son, me and my son, teenagers. There was the middle of the week, and I was asked by a brother he brought a pail and a washcloth to me, and he told me to wash the hands and feet, face of this gentleman sitting before me. These are all people that are some kind of deformity, mental problems, just outcasts of society. This man before me sitting on this picnic bench, he had his feet, I looked at his feet, they were just so grotesque to me. Like he'd never worn shoes in his life, very thick, scaly. I didn't want to touch him, but I didn't want him to see the horror on my face, and I didn't want to say no to the brother. So I gently washed his face, I gently washed his hands, I kneeled down in front of him, and I washed his feet. And I looked up to him after that, and it was Jesus's eyes staring at me. And to my heart, Jesus said, I forgive you. I am real and I forgive you. That was the start of my conversion. I wasn't Catholic at the time. I grew up Methodist, didn't really go to church that often, but the seed was planted of faith, which I'm so grateful. And after the mission trip, my friend Peg asked if I ever wanted to become Catholic. She'd love to be my sponsor. So, that planted a seed in me. It grew quickly. And I just said, you know what? I do want to become Catholic. I do. We were attending the Catholic church, Mass. Our kids were in Catholic schools. But I didn't understand the faith. People would show up right before the gospel and leave right after communion. And I just didn't understand, like, why would I ever want to convert to this faith when, people don't care about their faith? But being with the Missionaries of the Poor, I saw the beauty of the faith, the living with the poor, the rhythm of prayer and work throughout the day, with the liturgy of the hours and whatnot. It just was a beautiful experience. We had adoration. I was exposed to a lot then. So I wanted to become Catholic, but I started RCIA, the Rite of Christian Initiation, and sorry.
That's okay, Andrew. Well, Andrew, I can tell you that I have been to Jamaica. Father Holong invited
Oh,
me
yes.
to come there a few years back when they were trying to make abortion legal there in Jamaica. And I did a whole tour with them. So the poor people you're talking about, I visited with them all. I went to the orphanage where they have the children that, like you said, many of these children are abandoned because they have deformities or whatnot. I went to the women's prison with them. You're right. You see the poorest of the poor. It deeply impacted me being among those people, and to see the beauty of the brothers and priests that Father Holong has, the missionaries of the poor, and their dedication. And people don't realize, like, we're kind of creeping into summer now. The heat that is there constantly, and they're not in air conditioning. They're in open buildings with just a fan going. You're correct in saying it really impacts you and your faith when you see the beauty and dedication that these clergy have, and the conditions that they are conducting themselves in with the people. It really impacts you. I can still see the faces, the children. They were leaping into my arms when we walked into the orphanage. Some of the children, I had children all over me. They were so desperate for hugs or cuddles and things. So I know what you're talking about, and I can really understand how this was like life-changing for you, so much. So in your story now, you became Catholic, but when did you enter some sort of a healing program for your abortion?
Well, it was after, it was a process. Okay. So in entering the Catholic Church, I knew that I had to go to confession. And that was just a roadblock for me. I just said, there's no way I'm ever going to tell anyone about my abortion. Right from the beginning, I was going to go to my grave without ever telling anybody. That was not going to happen. So as time went by, I went through RCIA. My desire to become Catholic was greater than my fear of going to confession. But as the time approached, I didn't have the strength to go to confession. I didn't have so I asked my husband if he would please make an appointment for me, and that he could take me there. So he bodily took me there, to the confession. And during my confession, I said that I had an abortion, and the priest said to me, well, St. Peter committed a worse sin than you. He denied Jesus not once, but 3 times. But look what he did to St. Peter. He made him the rock of the church. And he said, your child forgives you. He goes, Jesus forgives you, and God and your baby forgives you. And I hadn't even thought of that aspect of it. And I have a wonderful relationship with my daughter. So anyway, I had that when I was absolved of my sin, my dead dry bones became flesh again, and I was resurrected. I had a whole new life. I resurrected that day. But then, okay, so the confession was one thing, but to tell anyone else, that was just another thing. But God kept showing me that we need to speak out. There needs to be a face to abortion. That we're the 5 stones that David killed Goliath with. So I agonized over that so much. Then I started realizing I just gave it to God, and I started asking. I knew that I was going to have to start speaking out. So I started inviting my friends over one at a time, telling them, I'm going to start speaking out about this. I just wanted to let you know, I wanted to let you know from me that I had an abortion. And that was such an amazing experience because practically everyone I talked to said either me too, or they told me about other things in their life that they regret. And I just thought, this is so healing to talk to people about their sins that they did and they regret. And so I was, my son he wanted to be in the pro-life club at Charlotte Catholic High School. And I thought that's very curious that he would be interested in pro-life. But anyway, they went to the March for Life in DC in 2002, and I chaperoned that. And that was kind of my beginning of God speaking to me about to start speaking out. Well, the next year in 2003, I went there on my own and I saw these signs, I regret my abortion. I thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly what this is the organization that I need to be in. So I started the next year. I started participating. I brought my sign home. Someone at the march told me, a Silent No More person, I bring my sign to the abortion mills, in front of the abortion mills, and with that sign, I thought, you know what, I have to do that. So I started doing that locally, and then we started with my colleague. I guess I'd call her. We met at a pregnancy center volunteering. She also had an abortion, and so we both took our signs out there, and we started. Anyway, we became the regional coordinators for the Charlotte area, and had lots of public places that we spoke, like in colleges, on the public square in Charlotte. There's any opportunity, which I still do that, any opportunity. I've given my face and my testimony to God. So wherever he leads me, I always speak out.
Right. And we know, Andrea, that we know by your testimony and your ability to hold that sign so people can approach and talk to you, that other women have been saved from going down this road, and I am sure you've stopped other women from having an abortion. But I would like to just talk about the fact that any day now, it could be today or Monday or Tuesday of next week, we will hear the final decision from the Supreme Court about that Dobbs case out of Mississippi, which is the Gestational Age Act, for those brothers and sisters maybe haven't been following this, which a leaked document by Justice Alito over a month ago, which was unprecedented, indicates that not only are they going to uphold the Mississippi law, but they will dismantle Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. So to go back, Andrea, you said in your testimony that your parents made you have that abortion. Now, if it wasn't for, and that was back in 1977, you said, so that was only a few years after Roe. But what if Roe hadn't happened? What if abortion was illegal? Like it was legal in a handful of states before Roe, so like New York and California and Hawaii. But even in New York, they had limitations until recently. All those years, it was only up to 24 weeks. Now it's full birth. But what if abortion was illegal where you lived? Would your parents have even thought of it? Do you think, like, what are your feelings right now? The fact that the very thing that kind of caused you to have your abortion may not exist any longer in many states. There will be states, of course, that are still going to have abortion till birth as they're passing these different laws. But what kind of feelings do you have? The fact that, well, my parents probably wouldn't have made me do this. What do you have to say about that?
This has been very emotional for me especially in the last week or two. It really hit me that this law is about to be overturned, hopefully. And would my parents have been able? I don't think they would have been able to do that. I don't think they would have. I wouldn't have had my abortion. And also, when I was in college, it seems like everyone was having sex outside of marriage. It's a whole culture. It was just this whole thing that started with that. It was like, the free love, all that stuff. And when Roe v. Wade happened in 1973, I was in high school, and I thought, I could never do that. I could never do that. And then I decided, I met my boyfriend, and I knew that he was the person I wanted to marry, and we are married for 43 years. But, I thought, why not just start having intimate relations now? So anyway, the whole thing, but it was a whole culture that just started, and people were getting pregnant outside of marriage. And so anyway.
Well, Andrea, I'm a few years older than you, and I can remember I graduated high school. I graduated high school in 1970, and I went to a very small Catholic girls' school. I had 60 girls in my graduating class. And back when I was in high school, yes, you're right. The birth control pills started to become available more, and people were talking about that. And, kids were having sex outside of marriage. But I can tell you that among my graduating class, the number of girls who were actually sleeping with their boyfriends was only a handful. And they were looked on as the bad girls. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was still not accepted as much. By the time I get into college, now you're right. It's like the floodgates opened, and it was just assumed, what's the big deal? Everybody was doing it, kind of thing. And now with Roe v. Wade, like you said, there was an out clause. People were saying, well, if you get pregnant, now you can take care of it. Because when I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, as a teenager, if someone got pregnant, they went away. The parents sent them away to a maternity home, and many times they were a convent of nuns. Took them in. They had the baby, placed it for adoption, and then came home. So you're right. Roe v. Wade did kind of assist in just making it. It added to the sexual revolution, I would say, in making it rampant. And I know from speaking with a lot of the women from Silent No More that they're like you. They're having these emotions right now about, gee, if it wasn't for Roe v. Wade, I'd have my child today. And especially those who, as teenagers, parents told them they had to have an abortion. And I'm not really blaming the parents, because back then the parents thought they were doing what was best, for their daughter. I don't think it was done in a malicious or vicious way. I think people were doing it. It seemed like to solve the problem. And of course, we now know, Andrea, like you said by your story, it didn't solve your problem. It created so many other problems. But we're going to, like I said, we could hear today. We'll be tuning into the SCOTUS blog around 10 o'clock this morning. And if not today, then definitely we will hear next week. And I think we have to really lift up all the pro-life organizations and the pregnancy centers in prayer right now, because I'm sure you've been following in the news the attacks that are happening from the other side. Things are getting, I would say, quite vicious. The picketing outside all the justices' homes. And of course, we all know that Brett Kavanaugh's life was threatened by someone who was showing up at his home with the intention of killing him. So this has gotten very, contentious now in our country. But for you and the women of Silent No More who still so bravely will come out with your signs and hold that sign about your regret, I just know, hearts and minds are still changed by this subject. So you've been really giving your testimony for, oh my gosh, Andrea, close to 20 years now, right? Because
yes,
you came to the campaign almost in the very beginning, and this January, when we come to Washington again to give testimonies, which we will do. Only this time, I have a hunch. We haven't heard yet from the March for Life. But rather than the marching to the Supreme Court, I think probably we should march to the Capitol, to Congress, because the good thing about the overturning of Roe and Planned Parenthood versus Casey is that it takes this whole issue out of the judicial system and puts it back in the legislative where it belongs. And this now will give the freedom of states to regulate. And currently, Andrea, there are 13 states that already have what they call trigger laws. When Roe is overturned, abortion will become illegal in those states. And there's a whole, almost another 13 states who will have enacted some sort of protection for the unborn. So more than half the country will protect the unborn instantly at the overturning of Roe. There are about 7 to 8 of, I would call them the blue states, that already have passed laws wanting to kill babies till birth. So this is going to be that's why the midterm elections are going to be so important, to put more pro-life candidates in office so that we can pass more laws to protect the unborn child. And of course, at the federal level, that's why I would say we might, march to the Capitol and to give testimonies there, so that Congress, if they're going to consider any kind of federal laws, we want them to protect the unborn and listen to the voices of women, right? Because even now, with all this abortion conversation, I don't know about you, Andrea, but when I turn on the TV, I just find they keep showing all the pro-abort hysteria of that they're not going to be able to have abortion. I mean, what do you think about all that?
I think that they're resigned that this will be overturned, and they're looking ahead. I think that it's definitely going to be all of this. I think it's going to be continued. I go to all these abortion mills, and these escorts are just so aggressively in your face, and you can't believe the things that they do. I know. That will continue for sure. I think we need to help each state to overcome these laws. It is definitely going to be a transition from just a federal thing to each state, and people should need to get involved politically and get out there and be brave enough to be boisterous. Against
well, I want to remind everyone to help spread these testimonies like yours and so many others, to go to abortiontestimonies.com. That's abortiontestimonies.com. And also to anyone listening right now, if you've had an abortion or someone you know has had an abortion and they haven't found healing yet, I want you to go to a webpage called abortionforgiveness.com. Again, abortionforgiveness.com, where all you got to do is put in your zip code, and you will see where's the nearest Rachel's Vineyard or the Save One Bible Study and other abortion recovery programs that you can find the healing that people like Andrea and so many of the men and women of the campaign have found. So again, reach out, because there's no such thing as the unforgivable sin, as you heard by Andrea, finally getting to go to confession, and then the relief that she felt once she was able to do that. Also, too, I want to just remind everybody or tell them, I have a brand new book out. It's my third book I've written, called Everything You Need to Know About Abortion for Teens. And I also say, well, it's for adults too. We have a unique opportunity right now. Abortion is in the news. People are talking about it. You have a unique opportunity to spread the truth in a very calm fashion. So in this book that I wrote, take on all the hard issues from rape, incest, life of the mother, fetal anomaly. I have a full chapter on how to dialogue, with people who think abortion's okay. And to do it in a very calm, respectful manner, but just to point out, common little things like, for example, okay, well, you're in favor of choice, as you put it, which is an abortion. How far along in the pregnancy would you allow that? And some people just stand and stare at you. And then you say to them, well, do you realize many of the laws in our country allow abortion till birth? And most people will say, oh, that's going too far, Janet. Oh, that's crazy. And then you say, okay, what about when the baby can feel pain? And then they go, usually, most people will say, oh, well, I wouldn't want to allow an abortion if the baby can feel pain. And then you say, well, most scientists will agree that an unborn child feels pain around 21, 22 weeks. And they say, oh, I'm not a favor of that. I said, well, that's the second trimester abortion. And then you can take them a step further and say, well, what about a heartbeat? And then so usually they'll look at you like, what? Well, if I passed out in front of you right now, what would you do? And they said, oh, I'd feel your pulse to see, if you were dead or alive. I had to start CPR. I said, exactly. A heartbeat indicates life, doesn't it? And most people say, yeah. Well, what about, would you agree that you shouldn't have an abortion after a baby can have a heartbeat? And then some people will say, I never thought about that. Well, do you realize an unborn child's heart starts beating 28 days after conception? So you see what I'm saying, Andrea? You can kind of back them down, the road to saying, oh, I never thought about that. So my book, Everything You Need to Know About Abortion for Teens, might be helpful to all of you at such a time as this, where the doors are opened to have these conversations to convert people. And this book is available at the EWTN Religious Catalog. You can go to ewtnrc.org and order Everything You Need to Know About Abortion for Teens. I know it will help with the dialogue. And also, too, in the middle of the book, I was allowed to put in pictures of the unborn child. It looks like a little baby photo album starting at 7 weeks, looking at the humanity of this baby. So I'm hoping many of you will contact the Religious Catalog, get a copy of that book, and get in the game right now. Because over the course of the summer and up to the election, people are going to be talking about abortion, and this is our chance to educate them. Wouldn't you agree, Andrea? Like, we've got a unique moment right now, don't we?
Absolutely, Janet. That book sounds fantastic. A wonderful manual for, talking to people about abortion, about what it is.
Well, I guess what I'm going to do, when I get to the office today, I'm going to send you a copy, okay?
Thank you so much. But yes, please be out there, just get involved with pro-life, okay? Every Catholic parish, I think I can safely say, has a Respect Life committee. Just, go their local pregnancy center, people who've had abortions, please get on Silent No More, be led to healing. I went through Rachel's Vineyard Healing Retreat. I can't say enough about it. That really took me over the top of, Jesus forgiving me, but forgiving myself. That's just been an incredible thing that needs to be done. We need further help, and there's so many resources out there to do it. I went through Rachel's Vineyard, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Well, Andrea, you just made a really excellent point. And so, brothers and sisters, you understand the wound of abortion is deep. And yes, confession is for Catholics the first step. And that's when you accept the forgiveness of the Lord. And you say, God has forgiven me. But like Andrea just told you, it takes another step to forgive yourself, to reconcile with your unborn child. Many of these women on this retreat, the Lord will put a name on their heart. They'll get a real strong feeling. I had a baby boy or I had a baby girl. They'll name their child. They'll memorialize their child. They get almost to have like that wake service and funeral mass that they never had. And they gain closure. So again, if you want to reach out to someone who's hurting, go to abortionforgiveness.com. Just put in your zip code there. You'll see where the nearest Rachel's Vineyard Retreat program is. And they do have it in English and Spanish in many areas. So please reach out to someone who you might know hurting from an abortion, because the joy, right, Andrea, once you, after confession, but then after that Rachel's Vineyard Retreat, don't you just feel, right, that newness in Christ, right?
Exactly. And I feel that I want that for everybody. I speak a lot about abortion one-on-one. I tell people in private conversations that, Andrea, why are you involved in pro-life? I go, well, here goes. I had an abortion, and more times than not, they'll say me too. Just quickly, I just finished going to the Way of St. James, the El Camino, in Spain, and a lot of that has to do with people, their pilgrimage to unload their burdens and whatnot. Well, I gave a talk on my tour company the last night saying that this isn't why I'm in the Camino, but I know that people have had abortions, and that they're struggling with that. And I know that a lot of times that's why they do this pilgrimage. And I said, so I gave my testimony, and I said, people, usually when I give my testimony, there's at least one person that comes up to me afterward and whispers in my ear, "Me too." Well, that happened during that night. We were all hugging each other, and someone whispered in my ear, "Me too." So it's so important to be out there with your anyway. I give my testimony wherever I can, because I know there are other hurting people. There's so many millions of abortions, so many million people hurting, that we have to help each other. We have to heal through this.
Ladies, you have done an amazing job today. Thank you so much, Janet and Andrea, for sharing your witness story and so much information at this critical time, right? I mean, this has been a wonderful presentation by both of you. So thank you so much for sharing with our listeners. And Andrea, know, as you're just saying, that you hope there's so many people out there that are hurting. Know that there are listeners. The Holy Spirit has made divine appointments during this hour. There are people driving all over the Charlotte area right now, and not only that, they are tuning in online and on Facebook and on YouTube, listening to you. And know that you've touched hearts. Be confident that you've touched hearts right now, and that the Lord is using you to as a healing instrument. So thank you to both of you, Janet, Andrea. This has been wonderful, especially on an important day as we're waiting for this huge decision from the Supreme Court. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yes, God bless you both. And so we're just going to take a minute here and bring on our founder and president of Carolina Catholic Media, next, David Papandrea. So we'll be right back with him in just a moment. But thank you once again to Andrea and Janet.
You are listening to the Carolina Catholic Media Network Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon. Operators are standing by right now to take your tax-deductible pledge. Call 1-800-857-2909. That's 1-800-857-2909. Or donate online at carolinacatholicmedia.org.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon. My name is Bill Snyder, and we are so very blessed that you are joining us here on the Share-A-Thon. I am bringing in our wonderful founder and president, David Papandrea, right now online. So, David, welcome to the Share-A-Thon, and thank you for all your behind-the-scenes work. You're the man manning the phones, so we're excited to have you.
Praise be the Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Amen, man. These 36 hours have been incredible, haven't they?
How many hours of sleep have you gotten, Bill?
Not too many, but it's been wonderful because it's been just an uplifting, joyful experience. We always talk about that joyful suffering, and this certainly is just joyful. I'm excited to see how many beautiful people have been coming in the studio, been online, joining us from all over the country. We just had, Janet Morana from Priests for Life, Executive Director, and, of course, founder of Silent No More. It's been an amazing lineup. So thank you for putting all of this together, because you've really been the man behind the curtain, right? It's like the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
That's the way I like it. I'm just an instrument and just a facilitator of all the beautiful things that are happening in the Carolina Catholic community. And I with our last segment in Silent No More, it's really a good segue to share the fact that this Share-A-Thon is the first time that anything like this has been done in the Carolinas, and I think that our community is not used to it, and we're coming off of a pandemic, and now we're dealing with other financial restraints with the economy and with the potential for a recession and with inflation. So we get barraged with all this negative news. But when you stop and think about the money that you spend every month, every day, But, if you look at your monthly budget and you see where your money is going, how much of that is doing good within for your soul, for your daily outlook, for your ability to communicate better with each other, the people that you're going to come across day in and day out. For those who, there's so many statistics that you can look at, but the reality is that even if you go to mass every week, there's 167 other hours that the devil is trying to raise heck with you on and trying to put fear in your mind and in your heart. There's a reason why be not afraid is in the Bible 365 times or more. And we have this daily battle. And my question and my challenge is, being that this is one of the last areas in the country to get a Catholic radio station, how do you fortify yourselves in the course of those other 167 hours a week? There's just so many things coming at you. I would not be, when I started this in 2015, EWTN did not have an area coordinator for the media missionary program. And I was delighted and knew that it was the Holy Spirit saying, David, this is what you need to transition into after being in the secular media for 40 years. So I supplemented what I was doing in my paid work and took this on nights and weekends. But it became very apparent that a lot of work had to be done in the vineyard. So, we took painstaking efforts to reach out in the community and to talk to many, many people. And we were able to rent a radio station in 2019, which is this one. And there was a lot of, people just didn't know what Catholic radio was all about. But you have so many people now moving in from other parts of the country who know very well, whether it's the Stations of the Cross in the Northeast or Spirit Radio in the Midwest or Guadalupe in Texas. There's so many wonderful networks that are out there. So people are coming in and they're just so excited that there's a Catholic radio station here and they want to know what they could do to help. And that has always been a big part of our ministry going back to when we signed on, is that the volunteers were passionate. And, we did movie nights when Unplanned came out and Faustina came out. And, then we had a music night at the Abbey and we brought in the D3 kids to sing and St. Michael's chorus and the Carolina Catholic Chorale with Tom Savoy. We want to showcase all of the things, the beautiful things that are going on in our area. And that lends to the mission statement. There's 100 parishes, including the border parishes of South Carolina. We want people to feel like they're united. I don't want people in Asheville thinking that they're detached from what's happening in Charlotte. I don't want people in Boone and Blowing Rock or Elkin or the Triad, Burlington, High Point, Winston-Salem, Greensboro. They shouldn't feel that they're detached from what we're doing. There's a reason why we call this Carolina Catholic. And, people check us out from the Raleigh diocese and from the Charleston diocese. But we have a beautiful thing going on, and we've been capturing as witness to this 36 hours. We did this back in 2020 in September to kind of help replace the Eucharistic Congress. We did a 12-hour event, and we had almost 50 segments that are available online. And it was a cross section of everything and everybody. I mean, truly all things Catholic, locally, regionally, nationally. And we're doing that again now. And this is going to be fabulous. We're going to have so much material to be able to repackage and share with our community. But all the content in the world is not going to make up for the fact that we have a monthly budget of about $15,000. And that monthly budget is nowhere near being met. And the challenge has been, truly, this has been a miraculous, as Father Cal said to me recently, you keep rising from the ashes, David. And I said, well, we've got one more shot at this. Truly is the case. We have got, last year, through the pandemic, we were able to stay in business, but we had to shut the radio off last August because we ran out of money. And by the grace of God, we were able to get ourselves in position to put the station back on in March. So we were on for Lent, and we are, our plan is basically the one thing that we had to do. And as the last segment said, with Silent No More, I want people to know that this is a serious situation for our apostolate, that we're in the process now of selling real estate where our towers are. And that the financial benefit for selling the land is that we will be able to keep the apostolate alive until the end of this year. So basically, we're buying 6 months. And the flip side of that is that the land will probably necessitate a relocation of the towers. So we're at a crossroad. We need to know if the Carolina Catholic community is going to step forward and do what needs to be done to support this ministry. We operate on $15,000 a month. We would like to be able to grow with our, video costs more than audio. We'd like to be able to do more video. We'd like to be able to do live broadcasts from parishes when St. Therese has their 75th anniversary, or that we have the 50th year celebration for the diocese, when we have events at Carowinds or at the baseball game this summer, when things are going on. We'd like to be able to have somebody that goes out, that we film, that we do interviews, that we share everything that's going on in our community, so people really feel a sense of that togetherness. Scott Hahn comes in and makes an appearance at a parish. We want everybody to know that Scott Hahn's there. We want to share the beauty of our Catholic faith. So in a short version here, I just want you all to know how important it is, whether it's $12.70 a month that you'll see on the website, to a larger donor that may come in. We've got business sponsorships available. We have parish partnerships available. We have a handful of parishes that are tithing for us, and that would be a beautiful thing. We've crunched numbers, and if your parish could donate 1% of monthly collections to the communications of the Diocese of Carolina Catholic through these additional areas. These are not areas that are currently being provided by the diocese. We are always looking at how we can augment what's already there and how we can make those things more accessible to you. It's a world of people want product on demand. So there's a reason why we have almost 900 pieces of local content available from our 10 local programs. We're introducing a 5-part series now with homeschooling with Elizabeth Hattie out of St. Thomas Aquinas. There's a long list, and we can grow this and do so much more, but we'll be stopped dead in our tracks if people don't look at this and see the value and what it means for not only those of us who have been Catholic all of our lives, but trying to bring up another generation of Catholics. Where are your children? Where are your grandchildren going to be in their faith 10, 20, 30 years down the road? We've got to plan ahead. Look at the decisions that have been made in the last 50 years. This has been, when a lot of people look at history, where we are today is a 50-year problem, a 60-year problem. So what we're doing today in 2020 is going to, in 2022 is going to impact where we are in 2040, 60, 2080. So I think I'm probably out of time, but Bill, if there's another opportunity later, I would love to jump back on and share more of this.
Oh, absolutely. David, it's great to hear from you and great to hear the update. And it's very encouraging, to be quite honest. I mean, I know there's so many challenges, and the Lord always puts those challenges in our path. But this is a community thing, right? I mean, that's really the call. That's what I've heard. You call.
This is a community.
Yeah, it's a community, and this is a community event. And there have been so many people that have, been so encouraged by this. And we know that there's people out there listening on 1270. Even if you're just scanning the dials and you're hitting it like right now, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? Well, here we are. We're a Catholic radio station. We're a Catholic media network that is broadcasting the truth of Jesus Christ, and we need your support. That's what it is. And so, folks, we got to get David back to the phones, right? You've got to be back on the phones. Let's give the phone number 1-800-857-2909. 1-800-857-2909. He is ready and waiting for your call right now. So, folks, we're going to just take a short break and come back for our next hour. I'll return you to just the EWTN network for a few minutes, and we'll be right back with our next hour right after this. So thanks so much, David. It's been awesome working with you these past several months, and this is just an honor and pleasure to be doing the Share-A-Thon with you. So thank you.
You're welcome. God bless you. God bless our community, and look forward to hearing from a lot of folks over the weekend.
Amen.
You are listening to the Carolina Catholic Media Network Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon. Operators are standing by right now to take your tax-deductible pledge. Call 1-800-857-2909. That's 1-800-857-2909. Or donate online at carolinacatholicmedia.org. We now rejoin network programming already in progress.